Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast, episode 173. I am your handsome host, the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. In the upper left corner, I got the NFL genius, too. My man didn't update his name, but that's okay. I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cutro. Are you impersonating me, dog? Are you impersonating me, dog?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's just how I'm feeling today. I'm gonna tell you guys why Chris Paul should be an all-star reserve this year, and let's see what else is why Ben Simmons is a coward. I'm trying to think of what else are common Gene things. I'm gonna tell you why the Eagles still need to fire Nick Sirianni and go after somebody else. So I guess I can be Gene for the day.
They basically proved that. They basically proved that by hiring two new coordinators. They're like, Nick, and did you hear the reports? By the way, this is real funny. I'm going to get Shally in here in a second. But did you hear the reports that if Nick Sirianni didn't wilt to their demands, they were going to hire Bill Belichick. Like they were all in on hiring someone else.
Now I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, you see by the names that they hired that they weren't playing around.
No. In the upper left corner, I got Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, my Philadelphia Eagles brethren, Mr. William Shawcross.
Sad member of the Brotherhood like Gene, but
why? You're not happy over the hires?
It is what it is.
It is. You got two guys out of the building that were terrible, and Brian Johnson, Sean Desai, and Matt Patricia, three of them, and you hired two guys that have been proven coordinators in the NFL for years. The Vic Fangio thing I love. He's local. He wants to be here. He's bringing in guys that are just his guys. They've given him full reins of the defense. I love that. That Miami defense, if anything, was violent, and that's what I like to see.
I don't mind Vic. I don't think it's necessarily a representation of the coordinators, as I think there's other things that need to change on that team.
That's facts.
And I think it starts with the head coach, and I think it starts with a bunch of attitudes and a bunch of other things as well.
I think. Well, listen. I don't know, but I feel like when you hire veterans like Kellen Moore, who's a veteran now, and Vic Fangio, they can change the culture on their offense and defense if you give them full range of the offense and defense. But this is not an Eagle show. Just wanted your opinion because all this stuff happened. We got a lot to get into. We got a Super Bowl that we're going to not talk about this week. Next week is our Super Bowl preview. But we got to talk about the participants that got to the Super Bowl. We're going to give you our all-star reserves, NBA. We got to touch up with college basketball. Crazy things happen in college basketball. I gave Tennessee credit a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and then they go out and lose to West Virginia. Nah, bro. I can't. Rick Barnes, this is on you, brother. I can't do it. Joseph Jeffers, tell me what your boys are doing. They were winning, and now they're losing. But we got a lot to get into. I want to break down the football games first. We'll start early. We'll start with the early game. I was in Baltimore for Ravens versus Chiefs. I was wrong about the football game, and I felt like I was wrong. Look, I got to preface this because Cottrell is going to beat me up if I don't do this the right way. Lamar Jackson had a great year this year. He had an incredible year. I will not be upset when they hand him the MVP trophy that he so deserves. I'm not saying he should have won the MVP trophy, but I'm okay with him getting it, right? I'm all right with it. The moniker of Lamar being a playoff choker, it continues. Now, Lamar didn't drop the ball going into the end zone like Zay Flowers did. I don't know what the hell that dude was thinking. Fumbling the ball at the 1 yard line. But Lamar threw in the triple coverage, an interception with the game on the line. That was terrible. I thought the Ravens offense, who looked very good all year, Todd Monken's scheme looked very good all year. Steve Spagnuolo had it for him. He had the game plan, and he played it well. And Todd Monken didn't really respond. Now, we can blame it on Todd Monken, even though the offense looked great all year and they responded to everybody else all year. We can blame it on Zay Flowers dropping the ball at the 1 yard line. If you're an MVP, what did we say about Josh Allen last week? What did Ryan Clark say about Josh Allen last week? Do I think Lamar was the reason they lost the football game? Probably not. But MVPs are the reason their teams win the football game. That's how you're great. They're the reason your team wins the football game. And I don't think Lamar Jackson was the reason that team won the football. I mean, listen, obviously they didn't win the football game. Guys, what's your first reaction to Baltimore versus Kansas City? And then we'll get into the referees and how Baltimore fans are becoming the biggest crybabies. I feel like they're related to 49ers fans. Well, the NFL wants Taylor Swift, and we'll get into that.
Trout, you want me to go first? You want to go first?
I'll go first here because I'll keep mine, pretty concise. Gene, I loved everything the way you said everything. I mean, Lamar, he played great all year. He's top 4, top 5 quarterback, whatever way you slice the entire league. In those games, look, even when the offense isn't flowing, you got to find ways to win them. And, Lamar Jackson, I understand how the Chiefs were playing you. You're the best athlete on the field whenever you're on the field. You got to run the ball more. And, you have to step up and make plays in certain situations. Now, you're right. Do I think he's the reason why they lost? I don't. But when you're that caliber player, you have to step up to that moment and make your team win. A couple things I want to get into, though, about Baltimore in general. They had the most rushing attempts in every single game. They led the league in average rush attempts, throughout the entire regular season. And in that game, they only handed the ball off to their running back 6 times the entire time. I just thought that was kind of a silly game plan going in for Todd Monken. So I just don't want to completely let him off the hook there. I thought they had success early on. I mean, you saw when Lamar Jackson extended the play, got the deep ball to Zay Flowers, they scored on it. Zay Flowers was really having his way in that secondary. So I understand, wanting to pass the ball, but you got to live with what got you there. You got to put the ball in Lamar's hands, let him get out there in the open field and give the ball to those running backs. Like, you got to wear down that Kansas City Chiefs defense. I do want to give credit to Spagnuolo as well. I mean, he's done an amazing job of scheming up great things for that Kansas City Chiefs defense. But I'm going to be consistent here. I didn't like Josh Allen getting all of his love last week in a losing effort. But again, I know Lamar didn't even play close to what Josh did last week. Nope. But I'm gonna get on Lamar. You got to find ways to get this narrative out of there. You had 4 touchdowns last week. It's great. You got to find ways to do it in the big game. The only reason why I'm going to give Lamar, and it's not even a pass, but I still will hold out hope for Lamar. Only 27 right now. The comparison I keep seeing is Peyton Manning. This is Peyton and Mahomes. He can't get over that hump of beating Brady, beating that one GOAT. Peyton Manning didn't end up winning his first, Super Bowl until he was 30. So Lamar still got some time to get over that hump, as great of a quarterback as he is. But in the moment, I got to criticize him for his lack of ability to win these big football games.
How was Jameis Winston? Because if we're just going to say everybody could be Peyton Manning when they turn 30 years old, I don't know. Look,
you don't turn into Peyton Manning, but I mean, you win 2 MVP awards before you're 30. You don't even have the same conversation as Jameis Winston. So
I was just being sarcastic and facetious. But I look at Lamar Jackson and I say, you got the regular season accolades now. You're going to win your second MVP. And we're blaming the officials, man. We're blaming the officials for Zay Flowers dropping the ball, Lamar fumbling, Lamar throwing a pick. This is not – guys, they scored 10 points in the football game. 10 points. I can't look past that. And we're going to talk about the officials. We're talking about the officials because the Ravens had 5 more penalties for 65 yards more. That's it. There's a difference, right? Shally, your thoughts on the football game? Was it the officials? Did the Ravens get hosed? Did they want to see T Swift in the Super Bowl? You heard the report, $330 million she brought into the NFL. Swifties.
Listen. There's no doubt that young woman moves the needle. But I mean, I'm gonna get into that. All three of us can get in at the end. I think I think you guys both made a lot of good points. I look at it this way, kind of harping on what Gene just said. If you're at home in your home stadium and you hold Patrick Mahomes to 17 points, you have to win that football game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to win the football game. Cottrell, I thought you hit the most important thing to me is, I don't know where the disconnect came from or why it was different on Sunday than it was every other week this year. But why have you based your offense all year around running the football, and then you have 8 rush attempts in a championship game against a team and a quarterback that you would rather prefer to keep the football out of his hands? It makes zero sense to me, like none. That's the biggest weapon you have is not let Patrick Mahomes be on the field. And on top of that, it was never it's not like they were down 3 scores and they had to just come out and throw the ball and score fast. That they had no pressure to sit there and run up and down the field. They could have stayed in their offense the entire time. So I do think some of this has to go on Todd Monken. I do think some of it has to go on Lamar. I think you guys both nailed that point as well. Steve Spagnuolo came in with a plan and said, he didn't even have to take the run away because they just stopped running it. And they were like, if you want to throw the ball over the middle of the field, well, let's see if you can do it. If not, we'll give you your dink and dunks outside, and you're not going to make big plays out there. You're going to have to do something else. I don't think Lamar played as well as his numbers would indicate. I know a lot of people are saying, well, he almost threw over 300 yards, this and that. It's
what?
Agreed. It's a little bit deceiving. His turnover was bad. The interception at the end was awful. Regardless of what you want to say about the officials, which we'll get into here in a second. The ball, however you want to slice it, it was into double/triple coverage, and it was 6 yards short of his receiver. Hold on. I look at it this way. I think I've turned the most on Lamar since we started doing this show, because I think I was a lot closer to Gene. Cottrell is kind of,
you act like you're in the middle ground. You're not the middle ground. I'm the middle ground. You hate it, Lamar. I'm the middle ground.
You still hate him. I don't.
I don't hate him. I don't think he's top 3, top 4.
I don't think he's top 3 or top 4 either. But if you look at like where the list have been in the last 2 years and everything, I've given him more love than you have. All I'm saying is this: I'm not saying anybody's, it's either wrong or right, but it's another case of, to agree with Gene, it's another case of it's a big game and he's not there, and that's tough. I get we get the regular season MVPs and they're all great, polish them, put them in your case, and that's all good and well. When you're the 1 seed and you can't score, like Gene said, you can't score 17 points in your home stadium in a championship game
with the MVP at the quarterback.
Yeah,
they're not going against the 70 steel curtain.
No, and here's the other issue.
They're not.
Here's the reason I don't kind of like the Peyton thing is Peyton really only had Brady, and you're talking about Brady being the best of all times. And listen, Mahomes is firmly kind of already in that conversation, but it's not. It's never going to be just Patrick Mahomes. You have Joe Burrow, who just didn't play this year because he got hurt. You have Burrow. We'll see what Herbert looks like under Harbaugh. You have other guys he's constantly going to have to beat every single year. Deshaun Watson, if he gets his act together, Josh Allen, it's not just Tom Brady. It's going to be every year. It's going to be the gauntlet to get out of the AFC every single year. If you want to get out of the AFC to go to the Super Bowl, you're going to have to beat some combination of 2 or 3 of those guys. He's just got to be better. He's got to be better.
And it's not going to get better because Derek said this was Lamar's best team he ever had and fell short. Don't look good for him. When that contract keeps kicking in, there's more and more people that are going to be leaving that team. Look, Zay. Come on, dude, stop it. Zay Flowers cost him more than Lamar, and I hate Lamar, bro. No, he didn't. He fumbled the ball at the 1 yard line. I get that. He had five catches for 115 yards. He was the number 1 receiver on the team. That fumble was huge. I don't agree with you. And guys, by the way, I'm gonna make something very clear. They didn't run the ball because the game plan said not to run the football. The Chiefs did something very interesting in this football game. And Spags does this a lot. It's not uncommon for Spagnuolo to do this. He put everybody on the line of scrimmage. He's made sure you're not going to run the football. You're going to beat us throwing the ball over the top. That's what he gave them. They literally said, you're the MVP of the league, and we're going to make you beat us. And he didn't. Guys, I know that it sounds nice and cute to say they should have ran the ball more, and they probably should have. Look what Kansas City did, right? They weren't running the ball for any success, but they kept running the ball to Pacheco. They kept handing him the ball to make the defense look for that. And Baltimore didn't do that. Would I like to see them run the ball a few more times? Sure. But running the ball versus stacked box isn't normally the answer. And what Spags did was
the reason why I got to disagree with you there, because when you saw Lamar get out there on counters or get out there on the perimeter, he was making things happen. I mean, Gus Edwards only had 3 carries, but he was averaging close to 7 yards a carry. So that's just kind of where I'm at. I understand loading the box, things like that, but you still have to attempt to run the football. At a point, your offensive line has to take it personal. I don't care who's on the line in front of you. You got Pat Ricard, who's one of the best fullbacks in the game as well. You lead him up through there. Mark Andrews blocks well. Like you lead these guys and impose your will. I don't care who's on line of scrimmage. You still got to run the ball more.
No, he's not. Lamar's better than Dak. We can't say he's the AFC's Dak. He's got 2 MVPs. Dak will never touch one. That's not for here nor there. I'm just, Sean, I love you, but I can't give him that. Maybe Tua, AFC Dak, but not Lamar.
The only thing I'm going to say this though. I mean, Zay, I don't know if you want to say he cost it more than Lamar, but he had a big part of that game going the way it did. I mean, you have the big catch. I'm not going to say he didn't play well, because he did, but there was mistakes there that, again, I've said it all year long. I said it the last couple of years. Little things lead to big things. He makes the big catch, gets a taunting penalty. Right after that, so instead of being on the 5-yard line, now they're back on the 20. After that, dives in for an end zone. I don't like giving guys grief for trying to make, the extra effort and that extra play. And obviously if he scores there, it's a 3-point game. And but at that same time, ball wasn't really overly secured either. I mean, it's you could look at that situation, from both directions and make logical arguments. But the end of the day is he does that, and then he slams his helmet and cuts his finger, possibly breaks his finger. It's a really bad 5 minutes for him. And I'm not going to say he is the reason they lost. He factored into the loss, though. I mean, he played a big part of that in the end. It's little things lead to big things. You do little things wrong, it leads to bigger glaring mistakes, and that's what happened.
So here's where my issue is. And I'm a guy that's going to break down the X's and O's of the whole thing. But this is really simple stuff. 3 plays, punt. Then they had the 6-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. Awesome. Answered back. 4 plays, 8 yards, fumble. 5 plays, punt. 3 plays, punt. End of the half. Okay, second half. Let's adjust. 3 plays, punt. 7 plays, punt. 5 plays, fumble. That's the one where Zay Flowers fumbled the 1-yard line. Then the interception. Then the field goal. The game's over. Guys, they didn't sustain drives the entire game. They had 3 sustained drives. One of them ended in a touchdown. One of them ended in a fumble at the goal line. And the other one ended in a really bad interception. How does that happen? Is somebody doing that to me? But one of them ends in a fumble or interception thrown at the goal line. Here, I'll make something very clear for you, okay? Should Mark Andrews been activated? Yes. I think he should have. He's healthy. To answer Nick Rice's question. Should the Baltimore Ravens be able to score more than 10 points at home without blaming the officials? Guys, watch the game. Yeah, were there a couple calls that could have went the other way? Sure. I actually think it was PI on Isaiah Likely on the interception. But the refs didn't want to reward Lamar for throwing into triple coverage in a ball that was going to be intercepted regardless of whether Likely got interfered with or not.
I get it, but that can't be why you don't call something.
I don't disagree with you. I just think that we're going to look at that play and say, should have been PI. When we're not looking at that play saying, that was a terrible friggin' pass. Bullshit.
I mean,
never.
We also didn't even bring up the fact that the literal play right before that was a clear PI. I don't know. The ref was looking right at it. defender tackle likely, would have got him closer down there. Don't even have that play happen because it wouldn't look like that. You don't call the same play there. So, I mean, I think Baltimore, I understand their gripes. I don't think anything was egregious, nothing that truly altered the game. At the end of the day, you do have to execute. But I mean, to the flip side of it, I understand you 100%. You have to sustain drives. Like that's going to be the key to winning these games. Patrick Mahomes on the other side, you know, in that second half, Baltimore adjusted very well. Patrick Mahomes and company, they couldn't sustain drives either on that side of the ball. So I understand, you know, I mean, if a defensive guys, Spags, McDonald, clearly McDonald just got a head job. We'll talk about him soon. These guys clearly know what they're doing. So I'm fine with the defenses adjusting and, you know, making these top guys struggle. But if you're Lamar, at the end of the day, you have to make those plays. Whatever your adjustment is, you have to just be a little bit better. Kansas City's adjustment was, hey, we know that in this situation, it's 3rd and 5 or whatever it was to seal the game out. We know they're going to come out in 0. We're going to throw the ball over top to MVS. We know he's dropped them in the past, but that's what we're living with. Pat's going to put the ball on the money. He's going to make it happen. Lamar never made that play to just make it happen. So you got to tip your cap and criticize Lamar for that.
Oh, and by the way, just to be clear, the game is the most elementary game to look at. Total yards, 336 to 319. First downs, 22 to 16. Time possession, 37 minutes for Kansas City, 22 minutes for Baltimore. Turnovers, 3-0. You guys tell me where the game was lost. You think it was the 3 turnovers or you think it was the penalties? And it's very simple.
I mean, the fact that you have 3 turnovers in a playoff game and you're still in it at the end is more uncommon than anything else. Usually 3 turnovers in a playoff game, that's a death sentence. And they still had a shot to go down and win it.
I would say though, too,
what?
I am curious to I mean, obviously we'll never know like fully, but I'm curious to see how that game goes if Zay get to the end zone there, and then that's that situation where like, how does Kansas City play that? Do they, you know, ultimately try to be like very aggressive to go up 2 scores, play a little bit more conservative? Like, I would be curious to see how that plays out. Obviously, that's not what we got, but I'm curious to see how that would have changed the course of the game.
I think that Kansas City would instead of playing a little bit less, they would have played a little bit less conservative and tried to attack again. I feel like they never had to attack because they always were up 10 points. Like, I feel like that's
with you.
It's like different.
I agree with you, but even before, like when they didn't need to attack, they still weren't moving the ball consistently in that second half. That's why I say that.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the Baltimore versus Baltimore versus Kansas City game? Because I really want to get into this next game, because if we're talking about guys that cost their team the football game, Dan Campbell can wear that hat, because the Detroit Lions, for every piece of credit I want to give him for that Lions team being super prepared to go into that house and win that football game, they came out on fire. David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, all showed up, right? All played well. I would say statistically, Jared Goff performed as well as you'd like him to. They scored 31 points versus San Francisco's defense. I'll look at this, man. I'll say it very clear. Near the end of the first half, that they have the ball with an opportunity to go up 27-10. They're on the San Francisco 28-yard line. It's a 4th and 2.5, and Dan Campbell goes, I want to go for it. Misses it. Could have went up 17, left the points on the board. San Francisco comes down. They get a field goal. They make it. It would have been 27-7 because they got the 49ers got the field goal at the end of the half, right? Am I correct there? No. It would have been 27-10. You run into later in the game. You're down 3 points. 27-24. You have the ball on San Francisco's 30-yard line. 4th and 3. History repeats itself. You have an opportunity to tie the football game. And there's enough time that if San Francisco scores a touchdown, You could still go down and score a touchdown, tie the game. You're not out of the football game, no matter what. He goes for it again and misses it again. They lose the game by 3 points. Dan Campbell, man, I love how aggressive you are. I love how rah you are. But man, if that, I don't know, if that happened in Philadelphia, they'd be calling for his job.
I think the second one's way more egregious than the first one. I think the first one, ended the first half, while it's not ideal and having a lead and being on the road and taking points, I would have kicked a field goal in the first half. I get the demeanor and the decision behind why he wanted to go for it. Like maybe even able to put, if they get the first down and even somehow score a touchdown before half, it's probably kind of putting a couple nails in the coffin. Not all of them, but you probably feel a lot better about yourself. The second one, this is my problem with analytics in general. They don't account for momentum. They don't account for, team morale and all that stuff with what's going on. You're in the NFC Championship game. You have to give your guys a chance. You have to kick the field goal and tie that game. Because like Gene said, worst case, San Fran goes down and scores. You still have a chance to answer and either force overtime, or if you want to be really crazy, go for two and try to win the game. You have to give your guys a chance. They looked really deflated after that one, and we could say everybody's on Josh Reynolds for dropping the ball, and it was an execution thing. Okay, it wasn't the easiest, it wasn't the best pass in the world. It wasn't, I guess you can call it a drop, but it definitely wasn't a routine catch by any means. But that being said, take the points. You're on the road. Make San Fran go down the field with the score time. Maybe adjust what they do. Maybe Kyle Shanahan, who, we've seen in the past, gets conservative sometimes in tight spots. Who knows what they're going to do? Maybe your defense comes up with a turnover. Who knows? You got to give your guys a shot. If you've gotten that far believing in them, and that's why you want to be aggressive, you got to give them a shot to play in a tie NFC Championship game on the road with 7 minutes to go, and you got to give them a shot to finish the game and see how they finish. I feel like that's the worst part of it for me. I love Dan Campbell. I've been a huge fan of his. I feel like he kind of took it out of his players' hands as a coach, and in that spot, it's something you never want to do. And I feel like he did that. He kind of handcuffed them and really kind of took it out of their hands. Let them decide it on the field. Just give them a shot to win. And, ultimately it cost them.
So here's why it's weird to me. So we were in a situation where originally the Lions were up 14-0. And then Dan actually came out right after and they got it down to like the 2-yard line. And Dan Campbell, in that first half, Dan Campbell kicked the field goal. They could have tried to potentially score a touchdown there, but he kicked the field goal. That was out of character for them there. I thought it was the right decision. I'm always of the mindset, if you can go from a 2-possession game to a 3-possession game, you take that chance. Now, I agree with you, Bill. I think the first one, I actually agree with going for it there, because if you have the opportunity, 17-0 is, going up 17 there, of course, that's going to be huge for the Lions. I think if you got the opportunity to go up 21-0 there, you get the great play call, you like what the look was, and you get that and you score a touchdown there, I really think that puts the nail in the coffin. I know it's only a 4-point swing from what they ended up going the half in, but I don't think that necessarily, was a huge risk there. The 49ers actually went down, they scored a touchdown, but the Lions still ultimately kicked the field goal before the half and were able to still be up 17. So they were up 17 going into halftime still, like they would have been if they kicked the field goal, the first time. But that second one is absolutely egregious. There's no way you can go for it in that spot. I don't even know what the logic is there. I understand being aggressive and wanting to score a touchdown, but like you said, you got to give your team a shot. If anything, I know that my defense hasn't stopped this 49ers team all half. Not once. Every single time they went down and they've scored points, I would know personally that, hey, I want to at least kick a field goal here. If the Niners go down and score a touchdown, that's fine. I'm coming back down, and if I want to be aggressive, then I'll even go for 2 to potentially win the game.
Correct.
But I have to give my team a shot to do that. And so that's really my biggest gripe with Dan Campbell there. The other thing I did want to mention as well, It's like a minute, 10 seconds left. They got the ball. It's 3rd and goal. They're on the 1 or 2 yard line.
Timeout.
You absolutely cannot run the football in that situation. I don't know why that was the call there. And I can't even put it on Dan Campbell because I know Dan Campbell's not the play caller. I know he's the head man. He could veto everything. Ben Johnson's the guy that calls that play. Ben Johnson is the one that's been calling their plays all year. That is on Ben Johnson. You have to 100% be smarter than that. Dan, you got to veto it, but that's on Ben there. You thinking that Jameson Williams going to come down and crack the end there to seal up to get David Montgomery in the end zone? Like, that's just a foolish play call. At that point, you're playing for the onside kick, and the odds of you recovering that, we've seen it all year. It's virtually impossible. So I hated that call as well.
That was a terrible call. That was terrible. They called the run on 3rd and goal from the 1, and then they had to call timeout. So it's like, I would maybe hurry up, maybe have a play ready. I don't know.
Call 2 plays there. I mean, something. If you know for sure you're running the ball, like, and that wasn't like something that Goff checked to or something like that. Yeah, you have to have 2 plays. Like, hey, if we get stuff, we're back on the line. This is what we're in. It was just. I hate to say, like, I don't mean to say this in a crap way because I wanted Detroit to win the game. There were certain things, again, little things in the game that you could tell a lot of those guys have never been in that spot before, and that is under pressure, under duress, stuff like times like that. That's when that stuff shows. That's when the cracks show. Dan Campbell's never been in that situation before. We saw it. We've seen it. We saw it a couple times in the college season where coaches came out and were like, I should have called 2 plays there. Same thing in the NFL. It's no different. That was an opportunity lost. Like I said, it sucks. It was heartbreaking. I mean, it was the second game of the team that won probably shouldn't have won. But little things lead to big things. And in playoff games, they are just magnified, man, magnified. And that's, most of the time when you get to a championship game, the differences between the teams is not a lot. It's going to be the little things that decide it. And I think Detroit just, I can't imagine how much they're kicking themselves, when they're going to rewatch that game back and go over everything and just realize, I mean, you had statistically the best team in the league just buy the balls numerous times and let them go. And that's probably really tough to swallow.
And I think the other thing, too, that even makes that call even more weird for me, continuously throughout the year, even throughout that game, you saw them come out in the big personnel. So if you do want to run the ball there, you bring in that extra lineman, you maybe put, Penei Sewell in motion. Like, you do something to, like, if that is your play call and you're like, hey, we're punching this ball in on the ground, at least go in that kind of formation. You got Jameson Williams cracking down on a defensive end. Like, it just doesn't even make sense to me schematically. So that's really just where I'm at. Dan Campbell, I do think that he will learn from it. But I will say, I loved what he said after the game. He said that this might be he told the guys in the locker room, this might be the only chance that you guys have a crack at this, because this was our year where, people, they saw us coming. Next year, everyone's going to have a target on our back, and we're going to get everybody's best shot. And I absolutely love that mindset that he was honest with him. Now, obviously, he said he doesn't believe that. He thinks they're going to be back, but they got some stuff to fix. I like that he owns that, but this was an opportunity that was absolutely squandered.
So I feel like that with the Chiefs game and this 49ers game, we've both talked about the teams that have got eliminated a lot more than the teams that won the football game. I do want to give credit where credit is due, man. Deebo Samuel came back after a really bad injury, played well, was the leading receiver, eight receptions for 89 yards. But the person I want to give the most credit to is Brock Purdy. The guy was 20 for 31, played from behind almost a whole game for 267, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But what impressed me more was the 5 carries for 48 yards. The guy was ducking, diving. I felt like I was watching dodgeball. He was getting all over the place, diving. Got to give him credit. Give credit where credit is due. Brock Purdy showed up. We talked all year. We can't win a close game. They can't come from behind. They can't do this. They can't do that. They did both these last 2 playoff games.
Well, statistically, they couldn't. I mean, these were quite literally the first time in Kyle Shanahan's reign over there in San Francisco where they had came from behind in the fourth quarter. So we weren't wrong in saying it, but you got to give credit where credit is due. You're 100% right.
Look, they threw the ball for less yards. They ran the ball for less yards. But in the second half, the adjustments that were made, San Francisco 49ers didn't punt the ball one time second half.
Yeah.
They didn't punt it once. Got to give credit where credit's due.
100%. But the one thing, though, is that with this Lions team, I think the reason why we've gotten on them as much as we have, there's so many spots where they just shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
You talk about the Niners having, all this stuff all this success in the second half. Well, one of those possessions where they got the ball, on the 30 when Dan Campbell doesn't kick that field goal there. Jahmyr Gibbs goes the wrong way and then ultimately fumbles. Like, that's just things that the Lions mentally could, if they do the right thing there, they're not in that situation. And then even the play, Ayuk made a great play on the ball, but if the Lions intercept that, you're not even, talking about a score in that spot either. So give credit to where credit's due. The 49ers came out in the second half, and they were a completely different football team. The Lions gave the 49ers every single out that they possibly could. And the 49ers said, hey, you want to give us an out, we're going to take it, and we're going to run with it, and you will not come back in this football game.
Facts. Guys, he's asking who we're picking. Chiefs or 49ers. Guess what? You have to tune in next week. Because we will be giving our Super Bowl preview like we always do. We'll have some prop bets for you guys. But this week is the recap week, and we got a couple more NFL topics to get into. I do want to take a second before we talk about a job that was just taken today. Mike McDonald taking the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Philadelphia Eagles hired 2 brand new coordinators. Kellen Moore is new offense coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Vic Fangio is the new defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's newsworthy. It's noteworthy. Let's have a conversation about it. We don't be long about it, but it's conversational. Your thoughts on the Kellen Moore hire, your thoughts on the Vic Fangio hire. We didn't talk about it last week. Let's talk about it now. Well, Kellen Moore happened this past weekend, but the Vic Fangio thing happened, Tuesday, Monday?
I'm way more excited about one than the other.
Okay.
I'm way more excited about Vic Fangio than I am Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is I'm a little bit worrisome of a fit thing. He's more of a kind of traditional pro style type guy. That is not what Jalen Hurts is. I don't know. I'm just very curious to see how that's going to work and who's going to adjust there and how that offense is going to look, going forward next year. We have the personnel to be that. I think Jalen is kind of the cog there. Or is Kellen Moore going to kind of, dictate, and I don't say dictate, but is he going to build around what Jalen wants to do? There seems to be a lot of confusion, dissension, checking, changing, depending on who you talk to. There's 9 different sources about what was going on at the end of the year. But regardless, the Eagles offense looked like crap. So I'm not saying Kellen Moore is not a good OC, because I think he is. I think you saw that in Dallas. I think he became the scapegoat for what was going on there. I just don't know if what he does best traditionally is not necessarily match up personnel wise with what Jalen probably does best. But so that'll be interesting. Fangio, I love. He's going to be aggressive. I think a lot of this shell crap that we played this year and kind of keep everything in front of us and, let's not look stupid and do blah, blah, blah. That's all going to be gone. That defense will attack next year. They will blitz. Hopefully we have linebackers that are healthy and can stay on the field. But you're going to see Slay and Bradbury, assuming they're both on the team. You're going to see them a lot more in man-to-man and getting after the quarterback and things like that. So that part I'm excited for. So Fangio, I'm a big fan of. Again, I'm not saying that Moore is a bad hire. I need to see that play out before I really get, jump up and down excited about it.
All right, so Kellen Moore did work with Dak Prescott in Dallas, and I don't think that's a bad fit. He's
That's
not
not Jalen.
traditional.
They're not the same. They're not the same though.
They're not the same, but he definitely designed runs and situations for Dak to use his legs. I think that Kellen Moore can easily design things to benefit Jalen's strengths. I don't think that should be a problem. I think that, and it's funny because the NFLPA conducted a survey. I don't know if you know this, Charlie, but they did it anonymously at the NFLPA meeting. Top 5 defensive coordinators, top 5 offensive coordinators in football. Now, defensive coordinators, they listed Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilks, Dan Quinn, Brian Flores, and Raheem Morris. No Vic Fangio. Now, I get it. Fangio's not the most liked coordinator in the world because he pushes his players. Top 5 OCs, they went with Frank Smith, Thomas Brown, Brian Schottenheimer, Brian Callahan, and Kellen Moore. Players voted anonymously. Don't know the overall votes. But for players to vote Kellen Moore as a top 5 offensive coordinator in football, I don't know, man. I don't think it's a bad hire. I think both are good hires, but I think it's very obvious what the Philadelphia Eagles organization did. And if it was that obvious that they were going to cut Nick's balls off, why not fire him? Like, why not fire him if you're going to do that?
I agree.
That's what they did. They cut his balls off. And that press conference was an absolute travesty.
It was awful.
I'm just going to be the head coach. Like, dude, credit Les Bowen for asking the question. Well, if Fangio's going to run the defense and Kellen Moore's going to run the offense, what are you going to do? I'm going to be the head coach. Thanks. Thanks, Nick. Thanks. Good try. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think obviously I understand, from that perspective, why that seems like it's a weird situation. But you've seen other places where that's been very successful. Like John Harbaugh, essentially, he is just the head coach. They have their OC, Todd Monken, that's calling the plays. And then Mike McDonald was, taking care of everything defensively. Dan Campbell was the same thing with the Lions. And, those are two teams that just went to the AFC Championship game. So I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing to have an OC that's fully in charge of the offense and a DC that's fully in charge of the defense. I think Nick just has to adjust, and he has to find a way to relate to those players and get the most out of them, because clearly there was a lot of division there. And I understand, you had 2 coordinators who were doing an awful job. So, of course, there's going to be division there between the players and the coaches. But as a head coach, you have to be the guy that steps in between that and make sure everyone's on the same page. Like, you can't just let the ship sink because, some coordinators aren't doing their job. So I think Nick has to find a way to do a better job there. But as far as the hires go, I love the Fangio hire, especially with the personnel that you have now. I think it's going to, pay dividends. Like you said, Shally, they're going to have a lot more aggression, play a lot more man coverage as well. So I think that's going to go a long way for them. And then as far as Kellen Moore goes, I made it pretty clear I would never hire Kellen Moore as my head coach. I feel like, with him taking that Chargers team, Brandon Staley got fired, and most people would be like, hey, I'm going to go be an interim head coach. I'll show you what I can do even without my franchise quarterback. He said, no, I don't want this to hurt my ability, and my potential to be a head coach in the future by getting this on the record. So I'll just stay being the OC and go from there. I would never hire that guy to be my head coach, because I know if shit hits the fan, he's not going to be the one to lead us to victory. But as an OC, I think he does a hell of a job. I mean, you saw what he did in Dallas. He had a lot of success there. And I know Dallas had a lot of success, this year without him. But I think Kellen Moore can call plays, and he can call plays effectively. You have all the talent in the world. And if you're an Eagles fan, I think you have to be excited, because he's not going to call screenplays to Julio Jones next year. And so, I mean, that's like the bare minimum
with Devonta Smith blocking.
Exactly. That's the bare minimum of it. I think Kellen Moore, you've even seen with guys like Zeke and Tony Pollard, so his run schemes are even effective as well. So I do think that can be a good match. I understand, being a little bit more skeptical about it, but I think that you probably got, if not the two of the best coordinators that you could have got with who was out there, throughout this cycle.
Close. I'm okay with both. I'm okay with both hires, and I'm excited about it. I still think you're putting lipstick on a pig. I'll end it there. I think that if you have a problem with the head coach, you can keep masking it. But if the Eagles offense turns you around, looks really good, Kellen Moore is going to be up for a head coaching job. Now, good news is Vic Fangio doesn't want one. So you have a DC.
Well, I mean, I get that, Gene. I really do. But at a point, good teams deal with that pretty much every year.
Yes, but the problem is good teams have head coaches that could run their offense or their defense. So the problem is this, right? Kyle Shanahan loses Mike McDaniel. You don't worry about the 49ers offense whatsoever.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sean McVay loses a guy in Minnesota. I'm drawing a blank. Kevin O'Connell. You didn't worry about the Rams offense, right?
No.
Matt LaFleur leaves. You didn't worry about it, right?
No.
So with Nick Sirianni, if you lose Kellen Moore and he promotes from within again, you're kind of worried about the Eagles offense, aren't you? Because you don't trust them. You cut his balls off and you kept him there.
But to those examples, though, I also have to point to if the Lions lose out on Ben Johnson after next year, you're going to still worry about their offense. But Dan Campbell is still the leader of that team. So like you would expect, at least hope, that Dan Campbell is able to go out there, find a replacement, and still get the most out of those guys.
I said no confidence in.
I said I think I get that. I said I think that's where Nick needs to improve. Like he needs to find himself within the team there. But this has given him a whole nother year to do that. I do think it says something. You come in your first year, you make the playoffs when those weren't necessarily the expectations. Second year, you go to the Super Bowl. I know you have two great coordinators that ultimately left. But I think it says something.
Slow down, calling Jonathan Gannon a great coordinator. He's not a great coordinator.
Well, Steichen is
that's fair. You said two.
And but I like what Gannon brought to Arizona. I do think they believe in him over there. Now scheme wise, you might have hated him, whatever. But point being, I think Nick when everything's going well, he has that confidence. He has those guys bought in. They love him. Like with his press conferences, he's always behind the guys. I think this year they're going to have more success, and it gives him yet another year to learn how to be a head coach.
Okay. Guys, we got to talk about the hire that happened in Seattle. Mike McDonald. It's a new head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. They could not make it more obvious why they got rid of Pete Carroll. They want to go youth. That's the youngest head. They went from the oldest head coach in the NFL to the youngest head coach in the NFL. And I don't hate it. I think he did wonders with that Baltimore Ravens defense. The development Roquan Smith had, I told you guys, but going into the season last year when he was a Chicago Bear, I said he's a top 5 linebacker in football. I had him ranked 3rd. You guys had him ranked 8th, 9th 2 years ago. Now, I get it. He was in a bad system, so I understand where you had him. You guys were probably right, and that's probably where he finished last year. But when he went over there to Baltimore, got himself a good DC, Roquan Smith is incredible. Would you argue with me if I said, I think he's better than Fred Warner? I think they're close. I think they're very good linebackers. It's fair, but I'm saying it's arguable he could be the best linebacker in football. Kyle Hamilton, first 2 games in the NFL, weren't the best 2 games in the NFL. For a year and a half, though, he's been incredible. Look what Kyle Hamilton's done on that Baltimore Ravens defense. Would you argue with me if I said he's the best safety in football? Might be Minka. He might be 2.
Might be Derwin.
What?
So it might be Derwin.
But I don't think it's Derwin anymore. But my point being is you could make the argument it's the best safety in football. I judge coaches by the way they develop star players. The jumps that they take. Mike McDonald has that already at 36 years old. I love it. I love the hire for Seattle. I think it's a better hire than Dan Quinn, which would have been a retread. I love it for Seattle. If I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm excited. I have a youth movement. Thoughts?
I think it's a good hire. I mean, I'm obviously more familiar with him than a lot of other people because he was at Michigan for 2 years, but before he went back to Baltimore. But he's a very aggressive defensive coach. I mean, you saw that with Baltimore. I mean, he's took over from Michigan and put the scheme in that's in there now that Jesse Minter came in and took up and tweaked a little bit. But really young, passionate, energetic guy. I hate to say he's kind of a young Pete Carroll. Like he's a guy that's going to run up and down the sidelines. I think that team needs work still, obviously. But again, if you're a Seahawks fan, I don't think you can really find any negative in the hire. They're going to have to get him a good OC, and obviously they're going to have to figure out the quarterback situation there. But when they do all that defense will be very good in the coming years, and that team will compete, which is what you want. I think they needed to change the helm and hear a different voice and a younger guy that could probably relate to the players maybe a little bit more. Again, if you're a Seahawks fan, I think you have to be very excited about the hire. He's a very, very good coach.
The Seahawks.
Good.
I was going to say the Seahawks will have a top 6 defense next year in the entire NFL. They have all the talent in the world over there. I do think they need to find another pass rusher, maybe get a little bit younger at linebacker. Bobby Wagner can't do it forever. But I love the way that I know he keeps playing, leading the league in tackles.
Leonard Williams was a great addition for that team.
Agreed. I do agree with that. But they just got to find pieces to pass rush. But as far as this specific hire goes, I love it as well. I think it will be very important for the Seahawks to keep Pete Carroll in the building. I do think you want to somewhat still have like that. It's not a true Seahawk culture, but I think Mike McDaniel's the type of coach that you could low key bring the Legion of Boom back. Like you could bring that moniker back to Seattle, and they'll run with that.
Man,
exactly.
Would you got surprised next year if Devin Witherspoon's the best corner in football? Like, look what he did with Roquan Smith. Look what he did with Kyle Hamilton. Would you be surprised if Devin Witherspoon was the best corner in football?
Especially in that scheme. He'd definitely be up there. So, like I said, I love the hire.
He's got to get something out of Jamal Adams.
No,
I think that's going to be.
Or you know what you get. You know what you got to get out of.
Or that. And if they do that, that's fine. I wouldn't blame him either. But if he's on the team and he's healthy, he has to get back to someone close to what he used to be.
He's nothing. He's nothing. You get nothing from him. He is a blitzing safety. He cannot cover. He cannot help you in run support. He is good to blitz and blitz only. You have to move on from Jamal Adams.
I completely agree with you. Or transition him to a linebacker because that's what he should be.
Yeah, or that. Make him eat a little bit and convert him to linebacker.
All right, so guys, one more thing to talk about in NFL, and then we're going to move on to our NBA and then our whole basketball segment for the second half of the show. The Commanders' only job open. Ben Johnson said, I'm coming back to Detroit. There's a lot of reports that Ben Johnson was going to take the job in Washington. Who do the Washington Commanders hire? Because it seems like they don't have any interest. And you have Eric Bieniemy in the building. You had him you still have him in the building. You get fired. Who do they hire? And is it Eric Bieniemy? And why isn't Eric Bieniemy?
It's not going to be Bieniemy.
I don't think it's going to be Bieniemy because I think it would have been Bieniemy already. Like you said, it's a guy you already have in the building, the guy that knows most of the players on the team and who's going to be back next year. If that's what you wanted to do and that was going to be your move, you would have done that very quickly. At this point, it's kind of past the point of I don't think you can kind of lick your wounds and go back to him. And I think he's proven at this point now that, he has no problem, for him to wait to get what he thinks he deserves. And I wouldn't take this job now if they offered it to me. If I was him, it'd be a slap in the face, in my opinion.
I hear you.
I don't know. I think the thing that worries me is, all these coaches are going in and like, hey, the draft pick is being discussed, like who you want to take with number 2. I'm starting to feel like Washington is doing Washington things here, and they don't. Maybe they don't want to take a quarterback. I don't know what it is, but for the amount of people they've had in there to interview, for nobody to stand up and be like, I want that job is crazy to me. Something's got to be going on behind the scenes, or they don't want to pay somebody. I know they said Johnson's demands were like through the roof. I think he did it on purpose just because he knew Washington wasn't going to hire him so he could stay in Detroit. But I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. It's not.
The problem is this, right? Do you know they've narrowed? I just seen a report said Commanders head coaching search narrowed down to 3 candidates. I'm going to read you 3 candidates: Aaron Glenn, Dan Quinn, and Anthony Weaver, all defensive coordinators. I'm not trying to be rude when I say this. All 3 would be terrible hires. Terrible. Like, out of this world bad hires. And Aaron Glenn is not a great coordinator, guys. I don't know what you guys like. That Lions secondary stunk. He's a secondary coach. That's what he was. He became a secondary coach into a DC. He was in the secondary, and their secondary stunk.
I get it, but I mean, you can't expect the chef to make chicken soup out of chicken shit either. So
Aaron Glenn, Anthony Weaver to DC for
words.
The Houston Texans. Are you guys serious? This guy's like DeMeco Ryans comes here for 1 year and turns the defense around, and we're going to give Anthony Weaver a head coaching job. I'm not nothing against Anthony Weaver, but are we being serious?
But I think that's why the search is taking so long, though. Like, I think to your point, I would want to bring in an offensive guy to work with. I mean, at number 2, if you don't take a quarterback there, then I don't know what you're doing. I'd even be potentially talking, in that front office about potentially moving up to 1. Like, let's see what Chicago's doing. Potentially get Caleb Williams, and we'll give up a haul for it, but we're at 2. So like the haul doesn't necessarily have to be too crazy to move up if they're not sold on Caleb. So I do think that's probably a big reason why this is taking as long as it is, because they do want to make sure they're getting the right guy. I also think that you also have to remember that this is an organization that has new ownership at this point. So
they're hiring a head coach to draft a quarterback, and they're narrowing the 3 coaches down to DC.
But we had already heard the rumors before that Ben Johnson was going to be their guy. They were waiting, for all that to clear. It was pretty much done deal. He was going to Washington. So I don't even know if this report is accurate, because we all said that Ben Johnson was going to be the guy to take that job. Soon as the playoffs are over, now it was his asking price was too high. So I just think with the new ownership as well, they want to make sure they get a guy that changes the culture there in Washington, just like they've been trying to do as far as their overhead goes. So I understand why the process is taking long. And at this point, you're really not in a rush because all the other cards are off the table. I understand you want to get your guy in so that you can do your draft prep and things like that, making sure that they know who they want to draft and different things like that. But at this point, I would want to make sure that I'm getting the right guy that's going to fit in with what we want to do and really change the culture in DC.
I love what DC's doing. I love it. It's nothing better than watching the Commanders, Giants, or Cowboys fail. Because this is a failure of a head coaching search. And unless they just randomly get Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick to sign there, which it doesn't look like they will, this is amazing to me. Shai, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree. I mean, I think whoever goes in there, I mean, I don't care how you slice it. I think it's somewhat of a rebuild. I mean, you gave away all your good defensive pieces last year. I don't think you're going into the year with Sam Howell. I just don't think that's sustainable. Or if he is, he's playing one more year until whoever you drafted to is ready to go. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's, if Snyder was still there, I would kind of get it. Like, people be like, I could understand nobody really wanting to go there and coach in that culture. But with new ownership and Harris and all those guys, you would think somebody would be kind of chomping at the bit to get in there and kind of make a name for themselves and take over a franchise, which however you slice it, has a good fan base. I mean, they're proud fans down there. They just have nothing to cheer for the last 2 decades. But it's
hope it's 3 decades. Hope it's 4.
No, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm with you. I just think I think a lot of it's the Caleb thing too. I really do. I mean, I've said it before. I think Caleb is a tier all on his own, and I think it is a dramatic drop from Caleb and everybody else in this draft. And I think I'm not buying into the Jaden Daniels thing at 2. I think Drake May has bust written all over him.
Thanks.
And it's. If for instance, if everybody's going to this meeting and they're saying, "Hey, we're taking Jaden Daniels number 2," I don't want the job. I don't. Sorry, I don't think he's the guy, and I'm not. It's kind of like you say, you're now attached to that kid for the next 4 years. So what happens in your head coaching career with the Commanders is going to be directly attached to how Jaden Daniels
that you don't
plays.
want. Yeah.
No thanks, not for me.
I guess we'll find out next week. You have to think they'll hire their coach by next week.
You would think so.
I mean, what's the rush now?
I mean, there's no rush, but at some point, I mean,
Got
there's
to
kind
prep
of a rush.
for the draft. You're starting to get to the point where
I get it, but I mean, all these guys are. I'm sure if they hire Dan Quinn or
I think
whoever,
Quinn's probably the exception because he's been, obviously being a head coach before and coming in. I mean, I don't.
Wasn't a good one though.
I don't disagree with you.
Guy blew a Super Bowl with Kyle Shanahan.
I don't think Vrabel or Belichick are getting that job. So I mean, if you're going Glenn or the other guy, I mean, you need to get them in the building ASAP.
My point is that all those guys are currently scouting, so you're not at a disadvantage necessarily there. Of course, you want the continuity, getting the staff and all that stuff, but I don't think that they're in a. You
got to hire coordinators. These coordinators are getting jobs other places. I don't know, man. I think they need to hire somebody ASAP. And we say, what's the rush? But you don't want to lose all the good coordinators to college jobs or other places.
I mean, I think a lot of jobs are gone. Like, I mean, at this point, the Steelers hired an OC, the Browns hired an OC, the Bills hired a DC. Like, a lot of these jobs are already filled anyway.
Guys, I know my dream is still, it's not really going to happen, but I still can dream, right? Eric Bieniemy goes to Atlanta to be the offensive coordinator.
They already hired an OC.
God damn it. Did you have to ruin my fun? I didn't see that yet.
They hired Zach Robinson, the QB coach from LA.
I don't like
the Rams.
We're not friends anymore.
I'm sorry.
Broke my heart. All right, guys. We got to move on. Basketball. We got some NBA conversations to take place. We're going to give our NBA reserves. We're going to give what our NBA reserves are. I'm looking forward to this. I think they're very easy, right? So without further ado, the NBA East All-Stars. We'll start with Cottrell. Cottrell is basically going to read you the same list as me, except one.
Yeah.
I don't. What are we doing right now? This is so. Oh, wow. All right. Well, never mind. We got a little bit different from Shally. Shally's got a little different. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Go ahead, Cottrell.
So mine, I mean, your three guards, I think, are as easy as possible. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey. I'll lump all these guys together because these are, no doubt about it, for sure, all-stars. They're playing an all-star.
All should have been fighting for the starting job.
Exactly, correct. So all three of these guys, we had them, ironically enough, we all had one of these guys last week and told you that they should have been starters. These guys have absolutely owned the NBA this year. Their stamp, no need to even really go into those guys. Next two, I got Paolo Banchero and Julius Randle. Paolo Banchero's having an amazing year down there in Orlando. He's stepping up and he's improved from his year last year. Orlando has been a sneaky good team pretty much all year. Like, that's a tough out. If you guys watch, Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce, that's one of the teams where they say, hey, you go to Orlando, that's going to be a tough out. You can't go out the night before when you're in Orlando, like some of these other places, or how Orlando has been in years past. So love what Paulo's doing. He's taken that step this year, deserves to be an all-star. Julius Randle having a lot of success there in New York. The Knicks have been winning a lot of games, and I do think Julius Randle has done enough this year consistently to be an all-star as well. Another forward for me, the one that I differ from Gene with, that's Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has been consistently a problem over there with the Nets. He's their number one option. He's been shooting the ball well, and he's been finding ways to win basketball games. So I know you guys both love him as well, obviously with him being the Nova connection there. Mikal Bridges has been showing out, and I 100% understand why the Nets have told everybody that Mikal's going to be one of our untouchables this year because of what he does on both sides of the ball. And then Bam Adebayo rounding it off for me this year. I know the Heat have been struggling. Bam's been playing really good basketball. He's probably top 2, top 3 in the defensive player of the year discussion. Plays great, great defense. Plus, him being a 20-10 guy for that Heat team, I think he's done enough this year to go back to the All-Star game.
All right, but I do want to ask you one question. is the Mikal Bridges over Jaylen Brown vote specifically because what he does on the defensive side of the ball? Like
I mean, that definitely goes into it. Definitely goes into it for sure.
All right, well, let me explain why.
I mean, he's first team all defense caliber defender.
He is, and that's what I want to ask. I wanted to understand it clearly because number one option on his team, but statistically he's a shade lower than the number 2 option on Boston, who's the number 1 seed in the East. I don't like statistically, he's just a smidge under rebound, smidge under assist, smidge under points. Now, granted, Jaylen Brown's a very good defender too. He's not Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is a first-team All-NBA defender. I just look at the number 1 seed in the East and the best team in basketball and go, the second best player on that team should be in the All-Star game.
Yeah, no, and I'm perfectly fine with that argument. Like, I have no issues with you having Jaylen Brown on your list. For me though, just Mikal, I think in a sense, I feel like Phoenix sent him off to Brooklyn to die, and he's kind of flourished in that role and become their number 1 option. So I did just want to show Mikal some love there. Jaylen Brown is deserving as well. Like I said, I wouldn't be mad if he made it over Mikal, but all those numbers being as close as they are, plus the difference I think that Mikal makes on the defensive end, not saying Jaylen's a bad defender, that just gave him the slight edge for me.
I get it. I just wanted to understand. And by the way, if you're going to take a Villanova guy and put him in over a Boston Celtic, I'm all for it. I'm with it. I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to understand the thought process behind it. Now, Shally, I'm not going to read Shally's list. I'll let Shally explain his list. Shally, on the other hand, went on another planet. Like, we all have the first 4, and he goes, nah, bro, I'm going different. And I like it, and I'm going to hear – this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to relax the chair, and I want to listen to Shally explain his second forward, third forward, and his center. By the way, don't hate the Kristaps pick. I hate Bam Adebayo. Not a fan. I think he's one of the most overrated players in basketball because he plays the center position. I think he gets a lot more hype than he should. So I'm here to listen.
All right, well, I'll start with the guards and get them out of the way real quick. Like we all said, I think all 3 of these guys you could have plugged into the starting lineup and nobody would have batted an eye. They all 3 deserving. All 3 having great years, and they're very key pieces to their individual basketball teams. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the guards. Paulo Banchero, second year. I'd like to point, that Cottrell brought up earlier about going to Orlando. Not a cakewalk anymore. He's the leader of that team. The kid has went from rookie of the year taking a huge step forward already this year. Well on his way to just being an absolute superstar in the league. Had a great first half. Think he deserves it. I'll go to Mikal next, just because we were talking about him. If you have Randall, if you have Jaylen Brown, again, I'm not mad. I think they're all, you throw them all in the same cup, and it's hard to, differentiate one from the other. I do think Mikal's defense has to matter a little bit. I mean, it is part of basketball. He's the best defender out of the 3 of them by far. And I think him being really the only true star on his team, I think gets a little bump for me as well. Brooklyn.
Now, interesting point Kyle Edwards brings up. He said Jaylen Brown has a better defensive rating than Mikal Bridges this year. Now, granted, when you watch basketball, Mikal Bridges is a better defender than Jaylen Brown. And I'm hoping that Kyle understands that. I hope he's not. And like Mo liked it. Mo said Bridges is not an all-star, a very good player, but he's number 1 by default. Scotty Barnes' numbers are good or better than Bridges, and he's not an all-star.
Well, I would say my argument to that would be Jaylen Brown probably never has to guard the best player on the opposite team because they have the luxury of having Drew Holiday, who's a better defender than Jaylen Brown. Mikal Bridges is going to be your number 1 guy to step up and strap anybody that Brooklyn faces. So correct. I'm not surprised the rating is better. Jaylen Brown is still a good defender, but he's also probably going up against the number 2, maybe potentially number 3, depending on who the option is that night.
Control. I agree. I just want to respond to our avid listeners. Mo and Kyle Edwards are very avid that Mikal Bridges doesn't deserve it. I'm a Nova guy. I'm not going to argue with it. I love Nova, so I'm good with it. But I wanted to respond. Mo, you can't say that part. I love you, but there is logic behind Mikal being a better defender. Mikal's a better defender than Jaylen Brown. Like, if you put both those guys on each other one-on-one, Mikal Bridges is a better defender. Like, let's stop. But
yeah, I mean, ask any coach who they want on the wing defending. And again, it's no disrespect to Jaylen Brown. All the coaches in the NBA are going to pick Mikal Bridges. It's a fact. She's a better defender. And the reason his rating is lower is exactly what Cottrell said. He's guarding the other team's best player every night. Jaylen Brown's not. But again, all the forwards were all different on all these lists because there's 5 or 6 guys that are all within a point, a rebound, and assist, stats wise across the board from each other. I took Bridges for defense, and because he's on a team where he's doing a lot of it by himself. The Gutless Wonder finally made his debut back from the injured list last night, and had a triple double, and got to hear all the Ben Simmons hype again. But Bridges has been kind of
back out already. He's back
out already. I'm serious. It's not a joke. He's already hurt.
He's gone. He's out.
By the way, Mo said, "Is he a better player?" No, he's not a better player. I will argue on the side of Jaylen Brown, even though I don't want to. No, Jaylen Brown's a better player than Mikal Bridges, in my opinion. Look at
who's the better player? I won't say. I will say if I'm running a team, I'd rather have Mikal Bridges. That's what I'll say.
If Mikal Bridges is your number one, you'll never win. I'd rather have Jaylen Brown as the number 2.
Jaylen Brown's not your number one.
Jaylen Brown's my number one. I damn sure ain't winning either.
But my point is, I'd rather have Jaylen Brown as a Robin than Mikal Bridges. That's what I'm.
Can I get through my damn list?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. I really don't care. Next, I gave Scotty Barnes some love. This could have easily been Jaylen Brown or Julius Randle again. I had Randle on my list last year, I think, when nobody else did. I like Julius Randle. I went with Scotty Barnes this year. Again, a team that's kind of been gutted and just left for dead now after they traded Pascal. Kid's taking a big step forward this year. I like what he does. So I just gave him some love. I think he should be, should be acknowledged and deserved of making his first All-Star trip. Again, if you don't have him on your list, not mad either, because again, this is either Jaylen Brown or Julius Randle here for everybody else. So I understand that as well. Porzingis, I put Porzingis there. I think he's been more valuable to Boston, and he's debatably having a better year than Bam Adebayo. Boston, just, depending on who you ask, is the best team in basketball. I unfortunately agree and think they are. And he's kind of been the guy that's kind of put them over the top. And now have an athletic center that can stretch the floor, gives Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum a whole lot more room to operate and do their thing. I think he's just having a good year. He's actually pretty much stayed healthy for most of it so far. Knock on wood if you're a Celtics fan. I will not. I gave Porzingis the nod slightly over Adebayo.
Okay. Let's move to the West. I feel like me and Cottrell are going to have the same friggin' list again.
No, we're slightly different.
All right, we got one difference again.
One different again.
Me and listen, we got one difference. Me and Shally. No, we have 2. I don't have De'Aaron or Cat. You have De'Aaron. You have Cat. Shally has both. All right, so I'm going to go first on this one because I didn't get a breakdown last time. I just kind of deferred to Cottrell. So I'm going to go first on this one. Anthony Edwards could have started. Steph Curry, 100% is going to be there. You don't have to worry about those 2. Devin Booker, I think that leaving him off the All-Star team would be criminal. I can't do that, right? Now, I didn't throw a center per se as a backup like Karl Anthony Towns, but I got 2 guys that can play the center. I got Domantas Sabonis and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis probably should have started. So Domantas Sabonis, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard could have started. Where we differ is Paul George or Karl Anthony Towns. That's kind of where we're at, right? And for me, Paul George being on the court finally and playing 45 games and giving me 23, 5, 3.5, and being able to defend at the level that he's defended at, I'll give the nod to Paul George over, I don't know, soft-ass Cat. I'm not a fan of him. Now, Cat does have a 62-point performance in a loss to Charlotte.
That's why
I'm a hater of Cat. I think Paul George is a better player. Give me my Clippers teammates. I'll take Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Domantas Sabonis, you guys know how I feel about him. If he wasn't on every one of your lists, I would have lost my mind. It really is splitting hairs, though, and I get it. Karl Anthony Towns or Paul George. I get it. I can't see the De'Aaron Fox thing over Devin Booker. I can't see it. I can't unsee it. But okay, well, I'll listen. I'll listen to it. Shall I go second? I'll let Control round up the rear on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, the first two guards again. I mean, Curry, is always going to be there, just to let alone on the fan vote. Again, I agree with you. Anthony Edwards could have started. I went with Fox. He's the leader of that team. And Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker's the better player. I think De'Aaron Fox is having the better first half. Devin Booker's had a couple games where he's absolutely had duds. He also always has those quarters where he just comes out and scores 20 points in the first quarter. But I think moving to point guard has hurt him. We've talked about that at length with what that was going to look like with this new look, Phoenix Suns team and getting Bradley Beal and all that stuff. But, I mean, his numbers have taken a little bit of a hit because of it. I just went with Fox over him. That was my decision. It was either him or Booker. As far as Cat goes, I think his numbers, I'm with Gene. I do not like Cat. I've never liked Cat. I just think his numbers are just what they are this year. They're second place in the West. Surprisingly, he's having a great first half. He's been very strong. I couldn't make myself, as much as I hate him, to leave him off the list. I think Kawhi and Anthony Davis were obviously givens, and then it kind of came down, to Paul George and Sabonis. And I think Sabonis is just all around game and what he's done for that team since he's been there, having another strong first half and making that team go offensively. I rewarded the big guy with an all-star nod.
I'm not against it, Carl. I don't like Karl Anthony Towns being for that award. I mean, for that spot, but I'm not against it. He's not a great defender at all for as big as he is. He's averaging less points than Paul George. The only thing he does better than Paul George is rebound. That's it, literally. The only thing on the basketball court. And that's because he's 7 foot. So I'm going to give the nod to Paul George. He's a better player. And that's just where I'm at. Now, Kyle asked, why no Jamal Murray? That's a joke, right? That's not
over
a
who?
real question. Yeah, over
Jamal's
who?
playing great, but over who?
No, he's not. He's averaging 21 points a game. De'Aaron Fox is left off my list, and he's averaging 27.5 points a game. Like, De'Aaron Fox is a light years, like head, shoulders, knees, and toes out of Jamal Murray right now. Like, we can't do that. And I don't have De'Aaron Fox on my list, which sucks. I don't want to not have De'Aaron Fox on my list. But D-Book, I can't leave off. D-Book is, no. I think he's averaging like 28.5, 8 assists is like career high in assists, 5 rebounds. D-Book's on my team. Like in a typical year, D-Book could start with those numbers.
For sure.
So that's kind of
potential 50, 40, 90 candidate this year as well. I would say the reason for me, I went with Cat, similar to your argument in the East. I think with the Timberwolves having as much success as they are, them being the 1 seed right now, the numbers are as tight as they are as well. And Cat's had some great performances. That's really ultimately why I gave him the slight nod over Paul George or even a De'Aaron Fox and those guys there. I do understand, that number 1 seed typically should have 2 options. That's why I said I'm not mad if Jaylen Brown goes over Mikal. I just want to show Mikal some love in that spot. But that's really where I'm at with Karl Anthony Towns. I think with the Timberwolves having as good of a year as they are, they do deserve 2 spots there. The other one that I would even throw in that conversation as well be Victor Wembanyama. I understand, minutes played, games played, like he probably won't be really in that argument. But if I'm going off of what I've seen these past 3 weeks, past month, Victor has played himself into at least this discussion. I know the Spurs suck as well, and he's got plenty of years to come, but Victor's definitely playing at an all-star caliber this past month for sure, and his numbers reflect that. I
mean, where would you put him over? Kawhi?
No. Yeah. I'm saying he would be in that argument for my last spot, like the Cats, the Paul Georges. Like I'll put him in that front court spot.
Okay,
I wouldn't put him over Kawhi, Sabonis, or Davis. His only argument for the last place spot.
Okay,
you disagree?
Guys, I don't think he should be. I don't think there's. Look, Victor's going to be an all-star for years and years and years. If it was an off year and there was guys that weren't deserving, I feel like we're snubbing people. leaving
Agreed.
people home this year. I think there's a lot of arguments for guys that can make the team. Whereas if it was an off year and you had a couple guys injured half the year and there was no spot, like last year you had Zion Williamson starting. Like, yeah, like, okay, I'm okay with that if Victor makes the team on a team that Zion Williamson is starting on. But this year it's just so stacked, man. There's so many good performances all across the league.
I mean, different conferences too, but I think Victor's having a better year than what Bam is. And I have Bam starting over on the East. I like I said, I understand different conferences, but what Victor's doing, I mean, he's averaging 21 and 10 right now. He's averaging close, 3 blocks a game. Like, he's playing incredible in limited minutes. So
yeah, but put him in the East and maybe I start him. Put him in the East and maybe I start him. I start him, but I got to put him in the, on my team.
Now maybe Joel's. I doubt he plays in the All-Star game.
Oh, don't get me started on Joel. Take the graphic down. I want to talk about Joel for a minute. 76ers are reeling. Joel Embiid got hurt last night twice. Second time, he laid on the ground. It looked more serious. Go watch a slow motion replay of that. You're going to get the MRI back. They're going to say he's got a knee sprain and he's going to be out a week or so. And, dude, stop it, bro. It wasn't that bad. It's overblown. It's an overreaction. I get it. But listen, I'm glad he doesn't want to win the MVP this year. I'm glad he's sitting out a bunch of games because I'm going to tell you something right now. He's going to be disqualified from it because he's not going to hit the game requirement. And I'm fine with that. I want him ready playoff time. But, we're overblowing this injury. It's nothing. It's nothing. I'm a doctor. I've seen it already. The test came back. It's nothing. Guys, knock it off.
As a fan, of first look at the MRI.
As a fan, of course, you want to have that perspective. I also disagree with one of the points you said, though. I don't think he doesn't want to win the award. I think that's why he played last night. I fully think that he was trying to make sure that he could sneak in these games to, try and win that MVP award for the second year in a row. I do think that ultimately has cost him. I do think that that's out the window now. And I do think they should slow play him and bring him back when they need to and still have him on his normal, not play on back-to-backs and all that stuff and have him ready come playoff time because the Sixers, if they make a move, I think can be a team that contends for the Eastern Conference. So
you can't be too cautious. They lost 4 games in a row. They're the 5th seed. They're behind the Knicks and the Cavs. We're behind 2 poverty franchises.
Well,
Maxey sat a couple of games too. You
can't call us poverty franchises when you don't have an NBA Finals to your name.
First of all, just to be clear, LeBron James has that final. Don't pretend the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Cleveland. How many? Hey, who in Sixers history has ever hoisted a Larry O.B.?
Dr. J.
And not with the damn Sixers.
Yes, he did. What are you talking about? You think the Sixers don't have a championship? You don't know?
When's the last time the Sixers have won a championship?
1983.
Come on, brother. Forever ago.
So what? The 76ers are a better franchise than the Cleveland Cavaliers, bro.
That's not even close.
We're not doing that, right?
Historically, I agree with you. I'm talking about now. We're in the present day here. But also, the 2 teams in front of you, the Knicks are hot. The Cavs have won 10 out of their last 11. The Knicks are on like a 8 or 9 game winning streak. So 2 teams that are hot. Both of those teams are going to cool back down.
We lost 4 straight.
Sixers aren't in danger.
4 straight losses. I'm not with that. And they got beat by the Trailblazers by 25 points. Now, granted, nobody played in the game, but come on.
The night before that, they almost beat Denver with nobody playing too. It's
still counts as a loss in the loss column, right?
It does. It does. I'm just saying it's not the end of the world. If he's not severely hurt and he's good to go at the end of the season, then and kind of like Cottrell said, if they can make a little bit of an upgrade of a trade, I think they're in good shape. And I'm usually.
I think so too. I like Nick Nurse. I like what he's doing with the team.
I'm usually the pessimistic Sixers fan.
You can be that.
All you got to do is make a move before the deadline, which is I know we'll talk about deadline moves next week with the deadline coming up. But
Jimmy Buckets,
even
baby.
If it's not a crazy move.
You think we can get Jimmy Butler back? I'll do it.
That's the rumor that came out of nowhere today by a couple different people. So
I would love it. Give me Jimmy Butler back.
I will say this: I don't think you have the ammo to get him out of Miami.
No, I don't think so either.
They're asking for Maxey. I'm telling you that if that's the case, and you say hell no, I know. I'm just saying that's where
I don't think they'd be dumb enough to ask for that, because that's you might as well just hang up the phone. You might as well not even dial. I also think Miami wants to get the $36 million off their cap too. So,
by the way, just before we move on to college basketball, LeBron James posted a cryptic tweet. Did you see this? The hourglass and the time running out in the hourglass. I would just like to hear Cottrell's interpretation of the tweet. Is he saying the clock is running out on the Lakers to make a move? Or is he saying the clock is running out on himself? Is he saying that the clock is running out? Like, what is the clock running out? Time running out?
It's funny that you bring that up, because that's already been debunked with his very next tweet. He announced a partnership with DraftKings. He's going to be picking NFL games next year. So he was waiting for that announcement to come through. Everything became official, but that's literally what that was. Already been debunked.
DraftKings?
No, loading, next thing loading.
The time's almost up to where he could announce it.
Oh, okay. wait for this next thing, and the next thing was him partnering with DraftKings to.
Kyle said he should have done a countdown. Young guys. Kyle Edwards says he's telling them young guys out in LA, time's running out on you boys.
I mean, hey, I'm not lying.
If it has a double meaning,
I'm gonna get you out of here.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised with that either. I will say though, that Lakers and Warriors game, D'Angelo Russell played his way on that Lakers roster, because I promise, before he hit that three straight turnovers, and then he pulled that. If he misses that three, his bags are already packed. His bags are already packed. The next 2 games. No. Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying that moment that saved his Lakers career. Now all the reports came out. Lakers don't want to move on from D'Angelo to go get DeJounte. He misses that shot.
They don't want to win then.
He is out of town.
Well, DeJounte Murray, Atlanta just beat him last night, and I think that's hilarious. So say what you want to say, but I think that it's hilarious.
The Lakers aren't going to have the magical run this year either, and then LeBron can really start posting some cryptic stuff.
Oh God, I'm so sick.
And he's going to be a free agent this offseason too, so that's going to be even more of a circus.
We'll go somewhere where
my man Mo, who's a Lakers fan. My man Mo, who's a Lakers fan, that's how it always ends. Time's running out on the young guys, and then he also said D-Lo can bounce too. All right, guys, let's get into some college basketball action before we get into. You got to be kidding me, Cottrell, Shally. I'm gonna hand you the rock here. The Tennessee Vols, who I picked to be in there, they just let me down this past week, so I'm gonna hand you guys the rock, and I'm just gonna retreat into my corner.
Nobody wants to be number one, man. This is a weird season so far. As in, usually by this point in the season, you get a couple teams to start to separate, or at least you feel good about. And it's not happening. Kansas is still a little streaky. North Carolina went on the road last night and choked the game away against Georgia Tech. Purdue was about to lose at home to Northwestern, choking the game away. Tennessee lost. It's weird, man. There's a lot of parity this year. There is definitely no. I mean, I guess you could say UConn. UConn's kind of.
I was about to say that's the one team that's been taking care of business.
Yeah, they've kind of righted the ship after they've got the rotations down after the injuries. But 2 through 64, flip a coin right now, man. Flip a coin, because I mean, I will tell you this. I don't know if a lot of people are going to win money this year in the tournament, but I will tell you, it is going to be fun. Because I mean, you look at some of the Kansas has gone on the road and lost to Central Florida. I mean, you've had a lot of big teams with a lot of really bad losses already. The Big 12 every night is just a fist fight no matter who's playing. ACC is a little bit down. Duke Duke won 2 games in a row by their fingernails and then lost the next game. They play North Carolina Saturday. I don't know, man. And North Carolina was one of those teams I thought finally turned the corner, won 4 in a row, and then they go on the road and lay a stinker to Georgia Tech. So I don't know. It's crazy.
College basketball.
That's really where I'm at too. I mean, I think with where we're at right now with the rankings, plus with these games that are coming up this weekend, I do think you are going to have a chance for some of these teams to take that next step and get into that category with the UConns and Purdue's. Like, I do think the winner of the Duke North Carolina game, they'll submit themselves. I think they take over, at least at this point. Obviously, it's only going to be February, once that happens. But I think they're going to put themselves in the driver's seat for a 1 seed come playoff time. And then you also have a matchup that I think could potentially determine another 1 seed in Kansas versus Houston this upcoming weekend. Those are 2 teams right now that are within the top 10. Kansas, I don't know what Kansas team is going to show up. Sometimes they want to run the offense through Hunter Dickinson. Other times they want to run through their wings. They laid a stinker against Iowa State. It was a great game, but they let Iowa State get so many open 3-point opportunities, and Iowa State isn't even a team that shoots the 3-ball well. So I don't think that's a recipe for success, especially come playoff time with some of these other teams in the country that can absolutely fill it up. UConn's been the team of consistency, though. They lost a couple games earlier in the year, and they've reeled off like 9 straight wins. So I'm curious to see how everything starts to really shaping up here. And then I also want to see those teams in that back half of it, like Gonzaga's fallen completely out of the top 25. Can they step it up in the back half of their season? Or even teams like Texas or Arizona starting to slip. Like, can those teams regain the pace to get back up there where we fully expected them to be at the beginning of the season?
Arizona was one for me. I mean, they got all the way up to 9th, after we talked about college basketball about a month ago. And they started looking great. And then, they went to like Oregon State and got thumped. And now they're kind of all over the place. It's honestly, it's been hard to keep up with this year. Cause it's not like a normal year where it's like, all right, like Coach just said, like, all right, Kansas is at home. Iowa State's tough. I get it. But Kansas is home. They're going to win. Like, no, like it's goofy this year. It's goofy. And it's the end of February and beginning of March, I think is going to be really fun. And then obviously the tournament's always great. So
these top teams literally just keep losing games that I fully don't expect them to. Like,
the Vols losing to South Carolina. That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
South Carolina stinks.
Whoa, no. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. South Carolina might win the SEC this year. They 100% don't stink. Kentucky, I was just about to get into Kentucky, though. Kentucky is a team that was looking like consistent team. South Carolina came in. They blew them out, beat them by close to 20, I want to say. South Carolina is one of those teams. I'm glad you brought them up. South Carolina is very sneaky. They're going to win a lot of games they shouldn't, especially come tourney time if they're in a good spot.
And then you got the other hand of it, man. You got some other programs, but I think there's gonna be a couple big job openings, I think, at the end of this year. So it's gonna be interesting.
2 big ones in the Big Ten. I'll tell you that. It's at least the way it seems right now.
There's gonna be one in the Big East too. So
I will. Yeah, well, you're talking about Villanova.
Nova, Juwan Howard. I would fire Juwan Howard right now.
But Villanova's lost 5 straight after lose. Well, they lost 5 straight games. They lost by 1 point to UConn in the game they should have won.
Yeah, well, Michigan's 7-14. So
and Ohio State. I don't think they've won a basketball game this year. Like, I don't think they've won a basketball game in 2024.
Thank you so much for the stars. I appreciate you, Danielle. Thank you so much for the stars, Danielle. But
the football team had more wins than the basketball team in January. That's how bad Michigan. That's how bad Michigan's basketball team is right now.
Good. It's about time Michigan stinks at something. But yeah, guys, I'm really interested to see how the rest of the season plays out. But I don't really have too much more to say. Now, here's my question, right? We're gonna release our block pool tomorrow. It's gonna be $10 a block, just like it was last year. We're gonna sell 100 blocks, and we're gonna support us, and we're gonna take care of you guys, and we love you guys. I need your opinions out there of our next bracket, next thing that we're gonna go over on the show. I like, and me and Shao are gonna argue on this, and that's fine. I like a city top 10 list. Like doesn't have to be the best players in the city, but like Philly guys, right? LA guys. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example, right? On our Mount Rushmore list, which we did already, and Shalley's right, we did. We had players that played for multiple franchises, and then we picked them for the team that they were best with, right? In the city list, we wouldn't have that. It would be guys that were for that city. Like if a guy split, like Reggie White wouldn't be on the Eagles list. He might be lower down the list, but like he split his time. Like on a list like that, Jason Kelsey would be ahead of Reggie White. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but I think you're using the one example that kind of pushes your thing here. And I think 5 years from now, I think, if Kelsey is done, I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Like, so it's like, is he Mount Rushmore-ish? No, but like he's going to be on the borderline at that point anyway. So like, I get what you're saying, but like at the same time, like I don't think like take Kelsey out of it. Like who would you add to the list that wasn't under consideration for the Mount Rushmore?
I don't
Chase
know.
Utley?
Yeah, Chase would be a Philly guy.
I mean, we talked about Chase,
but he would be a Philly guy, right? And I'm looking for Philly guys. I'm looking for LA guys. La La Land.
Well,
guys.
like if we did like Miami, if we did like Miami, would you put a guy like Udonis Haslem on that list?
Yeah, he'd
Like,
be a Miami guy. That's exactly what he'd be. And like, I'm not talking about the greatest players ever played for the franchise. I'm talking about the 10 guys that would, if you were telling the story of this franchise, this would be a guy you would talk about. No? But that's okay. Guys, I want you guys, send us your ideas, your lists. We want to create another bracket for you guys. As soon as football ends, we get in this like little lull, right? Basketball, college basketball, maybe a little hockey talk. But it's a little bit of a lull. And what I want to do is, like we do every year, is continue to bring you guys good content. And good content means we're going to create another freaking bracket, guys. You remember the movie bracket. You guys remember the Mount Rushmore bracket. What is the next great wire-to-wire bracket? Video game bracket. Remember that? I remember that. Next great wire-to-wire bracket.
I gave one to Cottrell, which is kind of like the movie one, but it's a little bit different. I said we could do best fictional, so it can't be anything that is based off, obviously, like a real person, but best like fictional character in a sports movie.
Best.
I feel like so like it would eliminate some of the ones that have kind of like we've talked about before. But like obviously like it would have to be something that's purely fictional. Like it was just the movie was just like made up by somebody.
Like Bowie Miles.
No, he's technically real.
Oh yeah, I guess that's
Would Benny the Jet Rodriguez count?
Correct.
Okay. So like
Happy Gilmore, Shooter, like people
Shooter
like
McGavin is hilarious.
Like it would be people like that
for sure.
People like that, like anybody from Sandlot could be used. Obviously, like if you wanted to put both guys from,
what about Footsteps Falco? Kyle says Footsteps Falco.
Correct.
Radio
fictional guys.
By the way, what college did Shane Falco go to?
Ohio State.
Oh, is that where he threw the game? Sorry, I'm taking shots, small shots.
So yeah, it would be all people like that. So like we would eliminate
Willie
like
Beeman.
the Friday Night Lights guys. It would eliminate like
Derek Dempsey says Bobby Boucher.
There you go.
I'll tell you right now, Bobby Boot. Last weird conversation, and we'll get into. You got to be kidding me. You have a situation, fictional situation, completely fictional. You're at the 3-yard line.
I already know where you're going.
Forrest Gump is running around the outside, and Bobby Boucher is there to meet him. Is Forrest running by to get Jenny, or is Bobby taking down Forrest for his mama?
I think Bobby's got to get him before he gets to the edge. I think if Forrest can get the shoulder outside and turn the corner, I think he's gone.
I got Bobby no matter what. Bobby's making the play. Bobby's an X factor. He's a sideline linebacker. He's making the play. And
I don't think Bobby's got the speed on the outside, man. No. If you look at all Bobby's plays, a lot of them are up the middle in the hole.
But the thing is, though, that's because they were playing to his strengths. You know, Bobby can attack the edge. Don't get it twisted. You talking about mama, Bobby's getting anywhere. Bobby's locking down a receiver if you talk about mama.
You put that other Jenny in that other end zone, Forrest might just run over Bobby.
That's what I'm saying. What if Jenny's in the end zone waiting for him?
They run a little counter action. You just get Bobby going that one step the wrong way for a second. Forrest is gone.
See, I don't think Forrest has a move in him.
The thing is, that's exactly. We're talking about Bobby here. Bobby has the experience on the football field.
What experience?
We're talking about running and stuff. We're talking about football.
Forrest Gump was running from bullets,
talking about some foosball here.
Forrest Gump ran out of the jungle with a bullet in his ass. He ain't
carrying people off the field.
Carrying people. Dude's a hero. Ping pong champ.
But see, he didn't do it in pads. See, I'm trying to referee this, but
he's winning Bear Bryant championships down in Alabama. I don't know what you're talking about.
Guys, fictional fun conversations like that are kind of what do we want to get into. So send us some messages, send us some links. We'll look into it. We'll talk about it. We'll figure it out. The bracket will be up tomorrow. We'll have our Wire2Wire Super Bowl bracket block pool.
Block pool. Don't call it a bracket. You're confused.
Whatever. Pool. Sorry. Let's get into You Got to Be Kidding Me. Cottrell, what do you got for me?
So mine this week, a little light, I guess, but I'm going to use the referee in one of the Cleveland Cavaliers games. So Max Strus, and I'm gonna have the video for it, but super small. You really don't even see what's going on in the situation. So I'll just kind of give you guys the breakdown of it. So Max Strus is defending. He gets called for a foul. Didn't necessarily like it. You could tell he was a little bit frustrated, but grabs the loose ball, picks it up, throws it at the referee. Underhand. Little aggressive, nothing crazy though, but throws out underhand. Referee gets mad, tees him up. He's not even looking, like he didn't think twice about it. You could tell it wasn't malicious. It was like, hey, I'm frustrated, I got this foul call. And the referee decides to tee him up. And for me, this is just another instance where the referees feel like they have to make themselves seen in these games. And it's just so unnecessary. We talk about it at this point in every single sport, and this is just another instance of that being the case. Now, this didn't have like heavy implications on the game or anything like that. It was only in the third quarter of the Clippers and Cavs game, so nothing crazy implication wise, but just another instance where referees feel like they need to insert themselves into a game when it's really not needed.
You gotta be kidding me.
Shally.
All right. I'm gonna go a little obscure today. That ref should be fired, by the way. That's ridiculous. Anyway. I'm gonna go with Chip Ganassi, Mr. Super all world everything motorsports car owner. He owns race teams in NASCAR, IndyCar, 24 hours, Le Mans type cars, which is where he was this weekend. He was cruising around the parking lot after hours. Well, not after hours. They went to 24 hours of Daytona this past weekend. He was ripping through a parking lot and actually driving a little carelessly, the report came out, and actually ran over a fellow driver's little puppy, golden retriever puppy named Lucky, who in hindsight wasn't that lucky. But unfortunately, puppy did not survive. He's then come out and made an apology and gone. I think he made a big donation to some pet relief fund where they got the dog originally. So he's trying to make amends, but he knows better. He's been around racing paddocks forever. There's always people somewhere, down in the pits and parking lots and stuff like that. He can't be driving that fast. Poor little dog lost his life. So for this week, Chip Ganassi, dog murder.
You gotta be kidding me.
So guys, I'm going to get into the second part, and it's not my you got to be kidding me, because I want your opinions before we go off air. And just be prepared. I'm going to talk about the Mahomes Justin Tucker incident. So just that's where I'm going next. But my you got to be kidding me this week is the NBA. Guys, no one cares. This is not the NFL. No one cares about your second round. No one. If you don't know, the NBA is turning their draft into a 2-night extravaganza. So everyone can hear all the picks in the second round at 8 o'clock when no one gives a shit. It's absolutely absurd how the NBA, who's a league that you 24, 25 guys, like I don't even think pick 28 matters, right? Sometimes it does. But like when you get into pick 36, 38, you're like signing the guy from Slovenia. So like he's going to be on a contract for us, and you know he might come over in 2 years or 3 years. But like we are drafting the rights to Ricky Sanchez. The NBA trying to turn this into a 2-night extravaganza is absolutely pathetic. Unless you're doing the first night on ESPN and the second night on NBA TV. So all the guys that really give a shit about the guy that's coming over from Poland, that's going to be your 6'7" guy that never plays in the NBA, it's picked 54. I don't care. So keep it one night. Let the pick 55 come on at 11:14 p.m. where it should. I don't want this to be 2 nights of the NBA draft leading up to this, and that. No, stop it. That's my you got to be kidding me.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's funny you brought that up because that's the one thing I always gave the NBA credit for. Like, obviously, the NFL draft goes on for 3 days, but like, it's so long, and like, the draft itself almost has like a cult following. So, like, a lot of people will sit in front of their TV and watch the draft for 3 days if they can. The NHL draft takes forever, way longer than it should. The Major League Baseball draft goes on for like a week because they draft like 20,000 people.
Yeah.
The NBA was always the one that did it right. It was like, you can start watching at 8 and they're done the first round by like 10. And you're like, boom, 2 hours, in, out, I'm good. Like, there's the one thing they did right. And now, like you said, now it's like, wow, like nobody's going to watch it. Like, I don't think they realize how bad like the ratings are going to be. Like Gene said, I'm not turning in for pick 54 to watch the Sixers pick a guy they're going to pay to play in Europe for 3 years and probably never makes it to the NBA. I'm not going to do it. I just don't care.
Now, guys, I want your opinion, and Chow, you were vocal about this in the chat, and I kind of want to see if you've changed your mind, because I think you should. New Heights came out. Travis Kelce talked about the Justin Tucker incident that happened with Patrick Mahomes. Justin Tucker was trolling Patrick Mahomes. He was lining his kicking tee up on his side to piss him off. Justin Tucker already said he was doing it for a competitive advantage. I am going to pass the buck to you for you to retract your Patrick Mahomes statement of him being a douche, because Patrick was in the right here.
I'm not going to retract anything. Justin Tucker also went out and said that they were out there early, which they were. Everybody knows special teams. You ever play football in high school, college, or whatever, special teams always goes out first. Justin Tucker was already out there. Patrick Mahomes made the statement about saying that he's only ever had this issue 3 times. It's been with Justin Tucker. When they asked Tucker about it, Tucker said the same thing. He said, I've only had an issue with about it 3 times. Patrick is notorious for coming out early, and the only problem I've ever had an issue with it is Patrick Mahomes. Again, it's a playoff game. I think they're both trying to get under each other's skin. I don't necessarily think anybody was right or wrong, but I'm not going to say Tucker being out there when he was supposed to be out there doing kicks on home field and Patrick Mahomes is out there early, which is fine. It's an AFC Championship game. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with going out and trying to get warmed up early on a cold day, but they schedule those things the way they schedule them for a reason. I think both guys did it. Mahomes kind of, said a really nice thing about him today when he was on Pat McAfee, that they were going to run out there and troll Tucker if he missed that field goal. But Mahomes was like, well, he's like, he didn't. He's like, because he made it. Of course he made it. He always makes it. But, I don't think I don't think anybody's necessarily in the wrong.
Bill, I here's why you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. Justin Tucker's 1000% in the wrong. You tell me the last time that Justin Tucker kicked any kick from the literal goal line. If you show me any footage of him kicking from the actual goal line like this year, then I'd say, hey, Justin's in the right there. I 100% understands it. I understand. Look, you talk about 10 years ago when the extra point was from a yard away. I get it. I understand that. The extra point isn't even that close. If Baltimore's that close to the goal line, they're not even kicking a field goal in that situation. So I do have issues with Justin Tucker there. I get the competitive advantage thing there. I shouldn't say I have issues with it. I don't think that Justin should have done it. Like, I do think it was a mind games kind of thing, but Justin Tucker is clearly in the wrong here.
Justin said it was. He said it was a competitive thing.
Yeah, and I get that. I get that. You want to play the mind games? That's 100% right. But that still means that he's in the wrong there. And the helmet, who puts their helmet on the goal line right there? I mean, just clearly you could move it to the back of the end zone where nobody's at. Like, Justin Tucker's 110% in the wrong here.
100%.
No doubt about it.
Tucker said on Monday he considered the pregame incident gamesmanship and all in good fun. But Kelsey, who caught a 19-yard touchdown pass from Mahomes on Kansas City's opening drive, responded that Tucker's antics might have consequences. Justin, sorry if we took it to a level you didn't think it would go, but if you're going to be a dick, I can one-up you every time. Don't make me the bad guy. He was poking the bear.
Which is fine. Like, I'm fine with Justin doing
that. I love the rivalry stuff, guys. Dude, the game I wanted to win most this year was the San Francisco game. Because the rivalry. I love teams hating each other in sports. Grow it. Good for you, Justin Tucker. Good for you, Travis Kelce. Good for you, Pat Mahomes. I'll put it this way. And all the people talking about Taylor Swift, she's not the most annoying person on the sideline. Brittany Mahomes needs to just go somewhere. I can't stand that woman. However, I will be a Swiftie. I will be a Kelsey. I will be a whatever. Mahomes comes to
Mahomie.
I hate the San Francisco 49ers. Guys, any final thoughts before we wrap up? I have two. I have to couple little celebrations, birthday shout outs.
I got one quick one because I know we got just a smidge of time here. I know both of you were locked in. The Royal Rumble very much disappointed me this year.
The men's Royal Rumble disappointed. The women's
Royal Rumble. Men's Royal Rumble. Didn't love the finish in the Logan Paul match either, but neither here nor there.
I thought that was a great finish, actually. I disagree with you completely.
It's the only way it could finish.
The Royal Rumble, I understand, the allegations. Brock got out the last minute, all that stuff. McAfee even came out afterwards like, I didn't even know I was in the Royal Rumble. They played my music, and I was like, I didn't even know I was supposed to go in the ring. It just seemed like
that wasn't Brock's spot.
No, I'm not saying that was Brock's spot, but I'm just saying like Pat getting thrown in there too. Like, this just didn't feel like it was a classic Royal Rumble. Kofi coming in didn't even have a great save or even close to a spot there. Like, I just thought there was a lot of missed opportunities in that Royal Rumble.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think as hyped up as this was going to be, and I thought this had a chance with, possibly The Rock coming out. Obviously, you knew you were going to have Punk and Cody at the end. So many directions they could go, and it was a dud. It was a dud. I was shocked it was booked the way it was booked. I think the only really good thing about the pay-per-view was the Women's Royal Rumble. I mean, you knew Roman was going to retain. You knew Logan Paul was going to retain because they just gave him the belt. He'll lose at WrestleMania, but Kevin Owens wasn't getting pinned in that match. So you knew that match was going to end on a DQ, something like that. So a little disappointed because I'm a big Triple H guy, and I think he's done amazing since he took over creative, but that was a little bit of a disappointment for me.
I think he wanted to showcase and throw his balls on the table with all the people that he had in the men's Royal Rumble. Like, I don't need surprises, but yet people watch the Royal Rumble for that oh shit moment.
Mhm.
And with the women's Royal Rumble, I loved what they did about getting other entities involved. They had the TNA World Champion or female champion there. Jade Cargill came out and she lifted up Nia Jax.
She's gonna be a star.
R-Truth coming out. Like they had
That
a lot of good
hilarious.
spots. They had a lot of good spots.
I think the only problem with the Fatal 4-Way match is you didn't need Solo. I hate I want to see Roman Reigns retain the title the way he did without the interference. Because like you literally, and I get it, no heel has not had cheating or outside interference or things like that to win. But like with Roman, he's so big that like the way he won the match, like you didn't need the part in the middle where Solo interfered. Like you didn't need that, right? Like you could have just like had him win the match the way he won the match. I hate the way they bring down their biggest superstar.
It's a lot of that had to do with. I get what you're saying. It is part of being a heel, but they didn't want to pin Randy. Obviously, you're not going to pin LA Knight. You don't want him to take the loss, so they kind of took it with AJ, and they still even projected AJ a little bit with it with the interference. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, again, I don't think it really mattered who took the pin in that match because we all knew Roman was going to win. So
when they put it at match 2, you knew Roman was going to win.
Yeah.
If it was match 4, if it was the final match after the Men's Royal Rumble, it might have been a different story. I also thought they put it in match 2 because they were going to have Orton or
bring one
back back for the Royal Rumble, but they didn't.
Nope.
But that was just my opinion. That's just my overall thought. I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was great. I thought the Men's Royal Rumble was a dud, and that's all there is to it. Guys, I wanted 2 shout-outs real quick. I want to wish 2 happy birthdays to 2 avid listeners. One, Brian Peterman. Petey, happy birthday.
Petey.
Yesterday.
Petey, you better start eating some damn waffles, boy.
Yeah. He's gonna bail, probably. And then another one, Nicholas Reyes. Nick, he's constantly listening to the show late, so he'll hear this probably tomorrow. But we love you, brother. Happy birthday. Adrian's brother, if you don't know who that is. But Nick's a great guy. He's also a wrestling fan. I hung out with him this past Saturday. So happy birthday to you too, brother. And thank you guys for tuning in to Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I'm the NFL Genius, Gene Walzak. That's Kent State's own, Cleveland's own College Cottrell, Scholastic Shally, Uncle Shally, William Shallcross. And we are signing out.